Mm.
Good evening and welcome to the breakdown. I am Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson, and we are 48 long days away from the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Last time we were here was only 51 days, 50 days, and it feels like those days cannot come fast enough because every time a day goes by, it feels like it's a month because there's so much batshit crazy going on coming out of this White House that it's hard to keep up. But tonight we are going to try to break it all down for you with a specific focus on Georgia because there's a lot of crazy going on down there, and the Lincoln Project is on the ground trying to make an impact to win those 2 Senate seats for the Democrats. And we will be joined tonight by our Lincoln Project brethren, Nate Nesbitt. He's on the ground there. So stay tuned for Nate. He'll be joining us in a little bit. And of course, we want to hear from you. Ask us a question, hashtag Ask the Breakdown on Twitter, or you can go new school with us and call in live through Zoom. We have our Zoom ID there, so ask us a question. I think we're going to do live tonight, maybe not, but that's all
Yep.
right. Ask us your questions, send them in, and we'll take more of your questions during the show tonight during our discussion. Rick Wilson, it was a month ago
Tara,
today. So just 1 month ago today, when the election happened, where a lot of us had a little bit of trepidation when we saw the results a little closer than we wanted them to be. But ultimately, we got the result we wanted, which was Joe Biden winning. But
yes, we
also a
did.
month ago, since then and now, COVID has exponentially increased COVID infections and deaths in ways that we have not seen. We have surpassed record numbers in deaths. Yesterday, 2,700 people died. That's the most in any one day single death rate. That is awful. We're getting close to 9/11 worth of deaths every single day. And it appears that as a country, we've just become desensitized to it, which is alarming to me on a lot of levels. Once you start becoming desensitized to life, I don't like where that goes. And we have an
No.
administration here that is just abdicated their responsibilities. Donald Trump is phoning it in, literally. He doesn't care. And thankfully, though, um, Joe Biden has continued on acting like the adult in the room, continuing on as president-elect, putting his cabinet together, getting his COVID response team together because,
Right.
a lot of what has happened and this tragedy, the deaths, the loss of jobs, the economy, all of this was mostly avoidable. And
Sure.
but here we are. And one of the things that Joe Biden asked, so he was on CNN. I think it's the interview is happening actually right now, but excerpts were released, and he said that, listen, I'm going to ask the American people to wear masks for the first 100 days of my presidency. I don't think
Yeah.
that that's too much to ask from folks. Do you, Rick?
Tara, it is really not. And I think this is the kind of, leadership comes in two flavors. There's the big dramatic moments where you're called upon to do something in a moment of pure crisis. And then there's the basic everyday example setting, basic requests of people to do their duty. And that's not as dramatic, it's not as sweeping, it's not as Churchillian. But you know what? Joe Biden asking people to do something that will help slow down the rate of further infection from COVID is a meaningful and important request. And it's the kind of thing a president does. He's not just saying, indulge every whim, do whatever you want to do. It's ironically a much more conservative approach to dealing with COVID than Donald Trump, the alleged conservative, ever took.
Isn't that ironic? I mean, did we ever think 5 years ago we'd be sitting here today saying that Joe Biden and the Democrats were taking the more conservative approach to solving the problem of a pandemic?
You know,
Never. It's the world turned upside down every day.
the mind boggles to consider that. It just
I'm
really is
telling you.
amazing.
Well, another piece of encouraging news is that Joe Biden said that he's been in contact with Dr. Fauci, and that he's asked
Hmm.
him to be a part of the COVID response team once their administration comes into power. Thank God. I mean, it's common sense. The fact that we have to celebrate that the one of the world-renowned epidemiologists is now going to be part of the COVID response team is like that's news
Right.
because that's how far away from science we've become under Donald
And
Trump. So that's a sigh of relief.
Somehow Scott Atlas didn't get a call to join the team.
Right. They didn't invite him back. Yeah, Scott, poor Scott.
No,
He didn't make the
strangely
cut this
enough.
time. Gee whiz. Well, talking about strangely enough, this Senate runoff down in Georgia is really becoming an extraordinary thing. The amount of money being raised down
Truly.
there, the level of attack ads. Nate's going to talk to us about what he's seeing down there, but
Yep.
you've got Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, who have really done everything they can to protect themselves and to benefit off of what happened with COVID and the
Yep.
response. I mean, talk about privilege. I just don't understand the cognitive dissonance from the people who are Republicans that complain about elitists and how they've been forgotten and the elitists have ruled and not forgotten about the little people. Meanwhile, you've got senators like Loffler and Perdue who literally made money off of the COVID response because they were privy to information that
Right.
the average person was not, using their Senate positions to make trades to earn themselves millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, depending on which one it is. And the fact that this is okay is it's mind-boggling. It's such a
I mean,
strange dynamic what's happening here.
Tara, when you were working in the House or when I was working at the Defense Department, if we had been in a classified or a secret or a confidential or a privileged meeting of some kind and gone out and made stock trades based on the things we learned in that meeting, you know where we'd be right now?
In
Jail.
jail.
We'd
That's
be
right.
in prison. And yet, Kelly Loeffler's husband made $1 million donation to Donald Trump as the investigation of her was starting to heat up, and somehow or another, it just went away. So yeah, I mean,
And
these
he's
two
the head of the
people,
stock exchange, by the way, so people know that her husband isn't just
right?
some regular guy.
Yeah.
He's
Well, this isn't
the
some
head of the New York
rando.
Stock
That she's
Exchange.
worth $1 billion, people. And the tragedy is that these two people are worse than useless for the people of Georgia. I mean, worse than useless. They have been spending their time defending Donald Trump, pretending that Donald Trump was cheated out of the election, which he lost fair and square, and they're both going to vote. For our Georgia listeners, I think this is a really important point. They're both going to vote exactly how Mitch McConnell tells them to vote. They're never going to have an independent thought in their lives. They're never going to do anything on for their own benefit. And what's going to happen is if they get elected, Mitch McConnell's going to count on their vote to stop a COVID aid package that will help Georgia. He's going to stop the appointments of Biden appointees to places like HHS and CDC that Mitch McConnell doesn't like. And they're going to vote exactly as he tells them to vote every single time. He owns them. So it's going to be quite a mess if they're elected.
Right, and that's the reason why we've decided to get involved in this race. The control of the
That's right.
Senate is at stake because of that. We need the government to function. We've really had a non-functioning
Hmm.
legislative branch for the majority of the Trump administration. I mean, we had obstructionism and the normal gridlock in the past when there's
Sure.
divided government, but we still got things passed. And we didn't have a president threatening to veto the Defense Authorization Act over social media networks not slapping
Right.
warning signals on
Not
their
being
BS
nice to him.
fraudulent stuff, right? Like, get the hell out of here. So
Right.
I think the American people are starving for just regular legislative business to start again. And to your point, if the Senate stays in Senate control by Republicans, that's what we're going to see. They're going to do what they
Sure.
did in the beginning of the during Barack Obama's presidency, which
Yep.
is obstruct, and try to make him a one-term
Hmm.
president. And
Yeah.
it's worse. They weren't
100%.
empowered. I mean, it's I don't know. I think that the more that people find out, especially in Georgia, the type of crooks that both of their senators are, and how
Right.
they really did not care about their own constituents, um, I think there's a shot. I mean, it's an uphill battle, but it's going to
Sure.
come out to turnout. And when you have the president of the United States telling people, and he's been tweeting away again tonight, even as we were going live on air, attacking the governor of Georgia, attacking the election. They have these
Right.
sham hearings going on with these people who are completely not credible, and it's depressing his own vote. People are
You
saying,
know,
well, why bother to vote? It's
I
rigged.
just want to say to Georgia Republicans, the election is obviously rigged and totally unfair, and you definitely should not vote by mail. It's completely fraudulent. So, and if you go out and vote, there may be Antifa out there. So I wouldn't do it if I were you. I'm just saying, trying to help you guys out.
I signed
Yeah.
something
No, but
saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Oh my
that
gosh.
woman from Michigan was comedy gold. I mean, it was amazing to watch that. Well, and I will say this.
What did you guys
Look,
do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I just want people to know we did not manipulate that at all,
we had
other than make
no.
the little cutout.
That's
She
just
really
her.
said those things and
That's just
sounded like
her.
that. Oh,
And somebody pointed out that she's like Cicely Strong from SNL playing the drunk girl. It's just like
somebody,
what?
one of my
But
one of my best friends is a huge Arrested Development fan, and he got me into Arrested
sure,
Development. Shout out to my friend
yeah,
Kip
yeah.
Kane. And Kip said that she reminded him of the character Kitty on Arrested Development. So for all of you
Right.
Arrested Development fans out there, you know exactly what he's talking about, especially the parts where she said, "You're not going to get to see these anymore."
There
Oh,
is a look. The comedy of these things aside, there is a serious note here, and it is that this race in Georgia, as Tara said, is going to come down. It's a pure turnout race, and it's one of the things that we've been working on with a number of other allied groups. Because look, this is a race where there's going to be $300 million spent, and we're gonna make a big investment there, but we don't have $300 million to throw in this pool. So we're going to be working very strategically and very smartly, I think, in building alliances with folks that have been doing a lot of work down there. And in terms of that, I think we have Nate on standby now. Is that where we're at, folks, in the great show here?
not yet. I think we have an ad to show
Not
first.
yet.
I think we have
Oh yeah. Okay.
the ballot ad to show first. Let's do that.
Let's do.
John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are running to serve Georgia in the Senate. So you might think this ad is about Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Sure, they both received secret COVID briefings while their stockbrokers cashed in. Yeah, they both embraced the crazy conspiracy nuts. But Loeffler and Perdue aren't really on the ballot. No, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are really running against Mitch McConnell. If Mitch elects his pet senators, it's 4 more years of what we just voted out. McConnell will block COVID relief for Georgians, stop Joe Biden from appointing qualified doctors and scientists to fight this pandemic. Loeffler and Perdue will vote with McConnell every time, no matter how much it hurts Georgia. No, you won't see McConnell's name on the ballot, but he's there.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I like the
Hey, Tara, we were
Confederate
trying to.
flag there. Nice touch.
Very helpful of Mitch to do that for us. Um, but as you can see there, one of the points we're making to a lot of voters in Georgia, especially those in that Atlanta suburban ring, which they call the donut. Folks, there's about 7 counties inside the inner circle of Atlanta, and about 23 counties around it. That's called the donut. And those are the battleground of Georgia. About 65% of the vote in the state of Georgia is in that giant circle. Okay, about a 30-40 mile radius around Atlanta. So that's where a lot of this battle is going to be fought. And that ad is specifically meant for folks in that part of the state where they've gotten very skeptical about Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue because they are lavishly corrupt scumbags and criminals. So with that, Tara, I'll throw it back to you.
I we don't mince words here. And as time goes by, groups like ours and more investigative reports. I mean, the New York Times just did a big report on Senator Perdue. about the questionable stock trades that he did profiting off of the COVID-19 pandemic. A local station down there in Georgia uncovered some more trades that he was involved in after hearings back in 2016. So apparently David Perdue is one of the most stock trading senators out there and profiting from them in off of companies and products that his Senate committee, that the Senate committees he sits on, that he has information that he's privy to. It's so underhanded. This is the type of swamp creature behavior that Donald Trump and his acolytes used to claim that they were running against, and yet they've become everything they despise, which is another reason why neither one of them deserve re-election. Well, Kelly Loeffler was never elected; she was appointed, but they do not deserve to continue to represent the people of Georgia. Rick, before we bring Nate in, I have to get your thoughts on the 46-minute lunacy of Donald Trump yesterday. That video that he released. What is happening?
I think it was you. I think it was you who coined the phrase the other night, the fire hose of fuckery.
I did.
I could not make myself watch the entire thing. I watched highlights from it because it went on and on and on. And it's just torturous to watch this guy in such a state of profound, disgusting deception of his supporters. He is lying to these people at every turn. He knows full well there's no fraud. He knows full well there weren't thugs cheating on the election. He does also know that he's raised $170 million to his super PAC, which is not, by the way, MAGA audience, a legal defense fund or a lawsuit fund. It is a Trump family travel and leisure fund. This is meant to enrich them. You are not paying for lawyers to go out and fight this battle for Donald Trump. You are paying to support the Trump family criminal enterprise. So, if y'all want to do that, it's certainly your prerogative, but you should know going in what it is and why he's doing this. And that 45-minute diatribe was a sales pitch for the crazy. And, Tara, it really speaks to the fact that how low a regard he really has for the people that donate to him and how low a regard he has for the people that support him. And it's funny because I had a long conversation today with somebody who's been a big supporter of the Lincoln Project, a very big supporter. And that conversation was fundamental because he said to me, he goes, look, you guys listen to ideas from people and treat people with respect, and you go out and you do what you say you're going to do, and you keep your word, and you guys fight brutally but honorably. And I thought that was a great compliment to the sort of style we have here in Project. And as we're going to expand our work in the country to fight against Trumpism, and frankly have to expand our work now to fight against Trump, who has announced he's running again in 24. And folks, part of that is a pure grift. Part of it's just a scam. He's going to just raise money off of it. But part of it is also that if Donald Trump drops dead tomorrow, his son is going to run. It's going to be the same problems, the same corruption, the same scumminess, and there will still be a big Republican infrastructure built to support the Trump family in that enterprise. So we're really in a position right now, folks, in this country where you're going to still see 48 more days of this chaos and this craziness. And you're going to see Donald Trump come down to Valdosta, Georgia this weekend, which is about a rock throw from where I live in Florida. But also only about 5% of the state population. And he's going to say the craziest shit. It's going to be fantastic because Loeffler and Perdue and the Republican committee, the Senatorial Committee, and Karl Rove's committee, Crossroads, they are all dreading this visit. They don't want Trump down here. They are worried that Republicans in the state of Georgia are going to stay home. And they may well. And I encourage them to feel all the pain of Donald Trump's loss very fully and to object to it by staying home on November or January 5th in a state of quiet meditation and contemplation.
Of course, we wouldn't want anyone to move to Georgia and register just so they could vote in this runoff and move back. We wouldn't want anything like that suggested by a lawyer down there in your state of Florida.
By a Republican lawyer.
A Republican lawyer. A fact that Fox News omitted from their headline and the lead when they wrote the story about this. One of my friends sent me the story and he said, so here's where the real election fraud is happening. And that's the actual election fraud, that kind of stuff. You can't move to another state just to vote and then move back. Like, you're not allowed to do that. And then this idiot tried to say that, no, he didn't really mean it. He was just saying that, look, I'm trying to prove that you can commit fraud. Get the hell out of here with that. Nobody believes you. These people
Right.
are just
No,
unbelievable.
please get out.
And
Get
can
the
you
F out of
can
here.
you blame, right? Get the hell out of here. And can you blame the Republican PAC groups and the sane ones that know Donald Trump coming there, given the state that he's in, is not a good thing? He's been very grumpy all week. He's pissed off at his legal team. He's pissed off
You
at
mean
Bill Barr.
You mean we have another episode of Grumpy Trumpy?
I think. Did that say farting Rudy Giuliani? For those who don't know, there is a clip of one of these sham hearings that have been going on all week, and it sounded like Rudy Giuliani let one rip. And was it Jenna Ellis who was sitting next to him? Whoever it was sitting next to him, actually, it was her, right? You could see her right when it happens, like look away and try to stop herself from laughing. Like clearly something audible came from Rudy Giuliani at that moment. And no, we could only assume that it was what it was. So
you don't want to go there. I don't want to even contemplate it. It's like when
really
Trump says massive dumps, I'm like, I don't want to think that. It's out of my head.
That's the diaper. All right, let's bring in our good friend Nate.
Don't talk to me that
there
way.
we go.
You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. Don't talk. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way. All right, I'm going to go with another question.
Oh my God, Nate! Welcome. Greetings from the great state of Georgia.
Yes. Hello.
So,
hey,
Nate,
what's up?
What is going on down there in Georgia? You heard the beginning of the show. Rick and I were talking about the importance of it, how the Senate race, this runoff is just nuts already, and the amount of money that's being spent down there. We are not the only group there trying to have an impact and make a difference, but it's important for people to know that the Lincoln Project has a presence and that we are involved. So talk to me. What are we focusing on long term in this race, during this lame duck period? What are we focusing on down there in the great state of Georgia?
Well, we don't have that long. We've only got a few weeks to go at it. But I think it kind of breaks into three buckets in terms of the Democrats securing a win here and how it is that we can help do that. So the first, I think, is we've got to ensure that there's high turnout from the Democratic base down here, specifically African-American voters. And we need those numbers to resemble what they look like in the general. It's kind of a difficulty there in southern states, and particularly around runoffs. The black vote doesn't necessarily turn out in the same numbers. And so we're pushing very strongly for that. And as Rick alluded to earlier, we're going to coordinate with a number of different groups, around strategy and create partnerships and alliances to really push that vote out. The second thing we're looking at is kind of the swing among moderates and college educated white voters and independents. We need that to match again what took place in the general that turned the state blue initially, and we need those voters to come out for Ossoff and Warnock. And then we've got to tamp down the MAGA vote. And if we can do all three of those things and do them in a very efficient and strategic manner, then we can secure a vote here. I think we're going to stick to our bread and butter. We're gonna kind of flood the zone with ads, with mailers. We're gonna reach out. We're gonna do things that annoy the hell out of these candidates. We're gonna get under their skin, and we're gonna hit them off and Warnock can't, because they've kind of got to run more clean cut sort of campaigns, and that's how we're gonna chip in down here.
They have people to answer to that we do not, so they leave it to us to do a little bit of the dirty work. Or
it's the joy of not having a boss or a candidate. Nate, I think we've talked a little bit. I think we all understand what's at stake in Georgia. And I think it's important for our audience, and I want to just expand a little bit on the fact that there are some very, very capable groups down in Georgia already on
Yeah.
the ground doing work where we don't want to have to build this mechanism from scratch. We
No,
don't
no.
we could if we had to do it, but we're going to partner with a lot of folks who are doing some very dynamic stuff down there. And what's the reaction so far been on the ground as you've talked to these different groups, different individuals, and built off of the work that you and the team did in the November election? We've already got a little bit of a rep down there. We have
Yeah.
we did a good push. So I'm going to tell us a little bit more about how that's going.
Well, they're very excited. I mean, there's a number of groups, like you said. I mean, we've got Adrian with Black Pack. You've got Stacy with Fair Fight. You've got America Votes. I mean, there's a million groups down here, along with the NAACP, BEA, right, Urban League, all of which we've partnered with, at least those last three. And we're going to be looking, like I said, to kind of supplement and to push what it is they're doing down there. I mean, when you look at it all up, I mean, Georgia rid itself of Trump, and now it's time. I think what we're looking at now is this, like you like to say, it's a referendum on McConnell. We need McConnell and his cronies out as well. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish down here. So we're going to push them. We're going to work with them. We're going to do a lot of what we did in the general, which was kind of, I looked and saw the landscape. I saw what was being covered and kind of where the gaps were. I focused specifically on the younger Black male vote. So between 18 and 39, we did a number of events, with Diddy's group Revolt. We worked with T.I. and Offset, reaching out to those spaces. We provided aid to poll workers and to people waiting in line, and did a lot of outreach. And so we're gonna, like you said, we're not gonna try to rebuild the wheel on this. We're not going to try to boil the ocean. We're going to work smartly and efficiently with these groups to get this job done.
That's really on brand for us, folks. We try to focus in on the area and the aspect of the fight where we can make the biggest difference and apply the resources that we are trusted with by our supporters in ways that are very strategic. And again, as we say over and over again, this is a tough race. Georgia's a tough state. It's not easy. It was not a huge win for Biden in Georgia, but the fact that we've broken the dam there, and Nate's team and deserves a ton of credit for that on the ground. The fact that we've broken the dam there, and that so many people are heavily investing in this race, and right now is a really meaningful thing. And the Lincoln Project. Look, there's $300 million going to be spent in this race, maybe more, and that's what a presidential race cost just 20 years ago. So it's going to get very crazy. And that's why we try to leverage our skill sets and our targeting abilities and our outreach abilities to be able to move quicker than almost any other group in the field to build these kind of alliances, to build these kind of relationships, and to build out a political, I got a great piece of advice years ago from somebody who was talking to me about political fundraising. And he said, you can never build a big enough network in a presidential race. You have to build a network of everybody else's networks. And that's sort of the application that Nate and his team have been doing so well in Georgia this year. So, Tara, back to you.
Yeah, it's the idea of coalition building. That's how you do that. And
old-fashioned politics, Nate, right there.
That's right. That's right. Oh, how old that feels now, given the lunacy that we've seen over the last couple of years. Some of those political axioms still apply. Nate, earlier this week, you and I were talking, and you sent me a really troublesome ad. The attack ads that are going up down there are just out there. And, Rick alluded to it on Tuesday about how some of the race baiting is worse than the Willie Horton ads back in the day and things like that against Reverend Warnock. The ad, tell our audience about the ad, because I don't think we have it, but explain why this level of race baiting and fear mongering that they're trying to use in Georgia is something that we need to push back on.
Well, they're really deciding to employ Trump tactics very strongly. I think they saw the success Majority had in securing her win down here, and really playing to a dark space. As I said earlier, one of the keys to our securing a win down here is to kind of tamp down that MAGA vote. And so they're trying to ramp it up at the same time. And the way they do that is to feed them distinctly disturbing ads like you said, that resemble Willie Horton, that harken back to a Confederacy and almost blatantly race bait around and fearmonger around the possibility of this state being led by a Black senator, even as amazing as we know Warnock to be. And so, as a matter of fact, almost all of the ads I've seen since coming here, and I've been here for about 2 weeks now, all the ads that I've seen have been very negative ads. You don't see many ads praising Loffler or her work ethic or her ability to
Right.
reach out to Georgians and represent them. You don't see almost any ads of that ilk for Perdue either. All of the ads are fear mongering, radicalism. AOC and Warnock are the same
Defund the
cat.
police.
Defund the police.
Yeah.
And it's all in an attempt to sway suburban white voters and college educated voters on that hand. And then simultaneously with some of the darker ads to make a very strong push for the MAGA crowd. And I'll let Rick, because Rick is going to be much better at describing this and funnier. If Rick will, I'll let him describe the ad that we're talking about with the sheriff.
Well, they have a sheriff who looks like this guy who's like a Dukes of Hazzard cosplayer. This sort of portly, white-bearded, white-haired sheriff who is it's not quite everything but the N-word, but he's like, they want to defund the police and they're coming to our neighborhoods. Those people, I mean, come on, dude. Let's like get a Soviet submarine engine and attach it to that dog whistle you got going there. It is, and that is an ad paid for by Karl Rove's group, American Crossroads, which is a joint fundraising committee with Mitch McConnell and the National Republican Senatorial Committee. So they are engaged in some weapons grade race baiting in that state. And we have an ad. I don't think we have it in the stack tonight, but you guys can see it on our Twitter feed. It's online now. We'll put it in the show for next week if we don't have it. Called Pulpit, which Nate and I talked about a couple weeks ago because we were really looking at the parallels between how Dr. King was treated in Georgia in a much darker, much more overtly racist time. Dr. King was called a communist. They went after his personal life. They went after him and said he hates the police, that he'll destroy the country, that he is a communist. And all those things are being played again right now. And so Georgians have a choice. They can go and they can play the era of the Lester Maddox part of Georgia. They can go back, 60 years ago, where Georgia was a holdout segregationist state, and where they treated Dr. King, who became one of the most important figures in our history, as a monster. You can compare that to what they're doing with Reverend Warnock, and I'm sure Reverend Warnock would be the very last person to compare himself to Dr. King, because he's a more modest figure than most people who are running for office. But it is important to understand this is an old playbook. It's an old and evil playbook. And we've all seen this before, but in this election, it is being used in a way that is so overtly racially charged. It makes Willie Horton look like a badminton match. It is quite remarkable how desperate they are to scare the MAGA voters with the same lines they used in the general election. And some of them, as Nate said, they work with suburban audiences. Defund the police, as Jim Clyburn says, that's not a good line. It is not.
Obama said it.
It's a great line for Republicans. Yeah, Obama said it. Yeah, 2 nights ago, Obama gave a great interview about it. He said, you're not going to get what you want if you use that language. You may think it's cute, catchy, but you're not going to get to what you want. So, the Trump folks are going to beat that thing to death. Reverend Warnock has got some media running now where he shows other Georgia law enforcement officials saying it's just not true. It's just bullshit. And they're pushing back on it pretty hard, and a lot of other groups are as well. Yeah.
And I think it's important for people who are under 40 who may not remember the Willie Horton ad. I realize that we've referenced it a lot of times, and some folks might be like, what are you talking about? We're not talking about So Willie Horton was an ad that ran during the 88 campaign for George H.W.
by
Bush against
a
Michael
proto
Dukakis.
super PAC. It
Yes.
actually wasn't the Bush campaign. It was by what
Right.
was then called an
For
elections
him.
committee or something like that. It was a
Right.
pre-super
To help
PAC
him.
super PAC.
Right.
Yeah, and it
To
only
help
ran a
George
couple times.
H.W. Bush. Yeah, well, that's all it
Right.
took, though. And you have to remember back then, you
Right.
didn't have social media, you didn't have, viral moments.
Correct.
But it was shocking at the time because
Yeah.
Michael Dukakis was a very liberal governor in Massachusetts, and he had a furlough program. And he furloughed this black guy named Willie Horton, who ended up engaging in more very violent, awful behavior out on furlough. And they asked the question basically, this is what would happen to your Michael Dukakis would allow your Willie Hortons out and, to rape and kill your wives and daughters and things. It was
Right.
really, really in your face, but it was effective. And that was one of
And
the more.
it played off
Go ahead.
and it played off a huge debate mistake that Dukakis had made in one of the debates where he was asked by Bernie Shaw. I'm talking about the death penalty. If your wife was raped, would you want the death penalty for her killer? And Dukakis went into this like academic discussion about the death penalty. And look, a lot of politics, folks, is pure emotion. And there are four big emotions in politics all the time: love, hate, hope, and fear. And Dukakis got on the wrong side of that emotional equation in that debate. And so when that ad hit and became a big national cause celeb, it really put a real hit on him, politically speaking. And so it was
that's
always
why we
considered
refer
sort
to
of one of
Willie
the
Horton.
benchmark ads, right?
Yeah.
One of the benchmark ads of that era. And it's a fascinating story, by the way. The attack started with Al Gore, who was running for president on the Democratic primary against Dukakis. It's a crazy story, but what you're seeing now are ads that people will go back and say, Willie Horton, that was nothing. Look at these things that they ran the Loffler ran against Reverend Warnock, because what they're doing is so overtly racially charged. It is going to be, and it's also a big affront to the Georgia culture, because Georgia was a state. Go ahead, Nate.
No, I was saying it is. It speaks to the lack of understanding, that a lot of these politicians and these groups have around the people of Georgia, and how they underestimate them, to think that same age-old tactic, the presentation of a black man as a problematic character, to be feared, to be hated, to be despised, would still work with a state that literally flipped blue a few weeks ago, right? Literally rebuked this sort of toxicity and poison in government politics, and of which we could trace the vote for Perdue or even what took place with Loffler back to just an understanding that a lot of conservatives have around putting checks on government, right? Not that they wanted what Perdue and what Loffler actually speak to, but the misunderstanding about a potential check on government that may exist if we keep them in power. And they've completely missed that. And they're just feeding this same sort of negativity. And it spoke to something you said earlier as well. This really is what scares McConnell, what scares Republicans in the Senate, what scares these PACs, is that this is a choice between a new Georgia and the Georgia of old. And you see in their ads, they cannot speak to any progress they've made. They cannot speak to anything they'll provide in terms of quality of life for these voters, for their constituents. They don't have any desire to move the ball forward to help these individuals. All they can deploy are scare tactics, and try to paint the image of where Georgia is moving in such dark terms and in such dark colors that it scares the hell out of these voters and either causes them to turn back to Perdue and to Loffler, or in other cases, not to at all.
That playbook
part
is an old one, and that idea of fear is a very, very, very powerful motivator.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
That's why they're doing this. That's why Donald Trump did it. He was successful.
Absolutely.
They're looking at that and going, well, we're going to do that too. But we're going to hope that it's not successful and play a role in that. And we do have that ad pulpit, and we're going to show it to you right now.
Oh, we do.
The man who stood behind this pulpit was opposed by the powerful and wealthy. He was called a communist, that he hated the police and his movement would destroy America. They attacked his personal life and distorted his policies. Sound familiar? It should. The hateful voices of old Georgia are back. They attacked Reverend King. Now they're attacking Reverend Warnock. It's disgusting. It's wrong. But with Mitch McConnell and Kelly Loeffler, it's no surprise. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So there you go. That's some of the pushback that we're doing. Good, nice job on that, guys.
Thank you. It was one of those things where, as Nate was saying, it's the old Georgia versus the new Georgia. And Georgia folks, we have a national and international audience now, which is crazy, but here we are.
Awesome.
as a Southerner, I will say this: Atlanta, in particular, and Georgia, Atlanta called itself back in the '70s the city too busy to hate. And they really worked race relations in Atlanta, and it's a slow, imperfect journey, and it's not been without its setbacks and its diversions, but it is one of the cities that has been very consciously working on the race issue for a generation, and they're proud of that,
and has led the country. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think we could say it's really one of the most integrated cities in the country, and is led in a lot of these things. And it has tried, over the years, as Atlanta has grown, it has been a place that people are attracted to in part, and businesses are attracted to in part, because they're working the problem, because they're trying to do better as a country. And a vote for Loeffler and a vote for Perdue is a vote to step back, and a vote to go backward, and a vote to go into a direction that we don't want to go into as a country.
And we've also got to call these ads what they are. Just again, taking a temperature check when we look down here and we see the ads that are coming through the system. If you spend all your time attacking someone in this very personalized manner, it's really just a deflection. It's a deflection from the fact that Perdue and Loeffler are corrupt politicians, and that we know that.
They are.
What they're going to do in office, it's going to be more corruption and more cronyism. And they're simply puppets for McConnell. And they know that, right? They have nothing else to stand on.
Sure.
And so they spend their time attacking and attacking and attacking in this underhanded, problematic manner in order to avoid the elephant in the room, which is that they have no basis upon which they can actually have their campaigns.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's
right. Exactly on point.
It's become nothing but a cult of personality around Trump, which is why the Senate Republicans have been acting like such jackasses, trying to placate Trump's ego, knowing good and hell damn well the race is over and that Donald Trump has lost and that Joe Biden will become the next president of the United States. But they're doing this all so that he will help encourage the voters to go out there and vote so they can keep power in the Senate. But he's doing the absolute opposite, which is hilarious to me. So the cognitive dissonance that these people are going through is going to be for naught, possibly, because he's harming them. He's doing more harm than good. And there is actual evidence of this. The Georgia Secretary of State, who's one of the local Republican heroes, has actually stood up and not withered against Donald Trump's attacks on him. But he actually said that 24,000 less Republicans voted in the general than they did in the primary in June. You can't tell me that's not a direct result of Donald Trump attacking mail-in balloting between the summer and the general election. So he's doing the effect of this is actually depressing their own vote and probably cost him the presidency as a result, because he cost him Georgia. It's insane. So anyway, we talked a lot about.
It's a great idea to have to come down to Valdosta. I think that's just
great idea for our side.
He should stay a couple days, right? They should
bring him down.
Let
him keep spewing shit. Awesome. That works.
Keep it up.
Fire hose of fuckery.
The fire hose of fuckery. That's right. Oh my God. As I said, we've come up with Rick Wilson's new book title for his next book, courtesy of me. Thank you. We've been focusing a lot on Georgia tonight, but there's some other things going on as well, and we're going to show you some of the things that have happened since the last time we were all together.
Do you still have confidence in Bill Barr?
Ask me that in a number of weeks.
Meanwhile, in the real world.
Our message to everybody struggling right now is this: help is on the way.
President-elect Joe Biden meets today with workers and small business owners hurt by the pandemic's economic impact.
My transition team is already working on what I'll put forward in the next Congress to address the multiple crises we're facing.
And Mr. Biden's staffing announcements today again included historic firsts. An all-female communications team. Janet Yellen will be the first woman nominated to be Treasury Secretary, and Neera Tanden is set to be White House Budget Director, the first woman of color to be nominated for the role.
It's a sign that Biden is enforcing what he said he would do, which is to make sure that his government reflected the diversity and the different perspectives of the country.
How's your foot?
That didn't stop the president-elect from receiving his first top-level intelligence briefings.
Speaking of Fauci, have you spoken with him yet? If so, have you asked him to stay on?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes?
This is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been unable to do when we've done it together.
You know, one thing you're going to see, folks, in the next few weeks is the divergence between the real world and the Trump fantasy bubble. It's going to get wider and wider and wider. Okay. And in some ways, because as our friend Steve Schmidt says, as the star collapses, it'll get crazier. And you know, like the 45-minute speech to the White House the other night, and I'm sure the speech in Valdosta this weekend, it's going to get crazier in that alternate reality world. But there are also going to be things happening
saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Where did they find her?
They're fucking with me tonight.
Where did
Where do they find her? Where'd they find her?
At a bar somewhere.
Right? It's like, I'm 7 Cosmos in, bitches. I'm testifying now.
She strikes me as a PBR drinker, not a Cosmo drinker, but.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
Maybe wild turkey.
PBR and Fireball.
Yes,
PBR
and Fireball. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And again, for those who don't know, just so we could explain, so we're not just entertaining ourselves, there was another one of those hearings in Michigan this week where the Trump folks trotted out a couple people as star witnesses, you know, these affidavits and these people who allegedly saw this election fraud happening. And just so that you know that woman her affidavit and testimony was basically laughed out of court in Michigan. It was not accepted as credible. She was deemed uncredible. So they decided to bring her now in front of this state legislator hearing to testify about what she allegedly saw. And the exchange is extraordinary. I suggest you go and Google it so you can see it in its totality. It's worth it. She's clearly
Delicious.
Not sober. And the exchange between her and the Michigan state legislators just trying to get simple answers out of her. You know it's bad when Rudy Giuliani reached over to try to get her to shut up so that
right.
the Republican legislators could ask questions and get their statements out. I mean, it was just absolute craziness.
That's where we got it from. Farting, right?
Yes.
Yes. We covered Rudy farting, yes.
There was
the important stuff.
There were so many elements to that. Like that she heard the fart, that she tried to keep the laugh in. But then if you keep watching, like a split second later, you see when the fart hits and she smells it. Oh my fucking God.
Bye-bye. Hard-hitting news tonight on The Breakdown. Usually we save these conversations for Friday nights, but this is what's happening. This is actually what's happening.
Right, folks.
The President of the United States' personal lawyer charging $20,000 a day is letting smelly ones go during their fraud hearings. And
He's charging $20,000 a day?
Yes,
he was. That's the rumor. Yes.
A day.
Allegedly,
right, folks,
as my friend.
Before we get too deep in the gaseous weeds, let's go with a tweet, shall we? What impact do you think Trump's lawyers telling Republicans not to vote in the runoff will have? Also, do you think Trump's trip to Georgia will negate any impact, or will his ego prefer Loffler and Perdue lose? Nate, I'll let you answer that one.
We've got to repeat it one more time. Repeat it one more time for me. Sorry.
Throw it up, guys. Let's see it again. What impact do you think Trump's lawyers telling Republicans not to vote in the runoff will have? Also, do you think Trump's trip to Georgia will negate any impact, or will his ego prefer Loffler and Perdue lose? That's from Kate Meyer.
I think to the first question, as the Secretary of State stated, frankly, a few days ago, or was it yesterday? There's real fear around, Trump and his activity in Georgia and what that's going to cost them. I think those lawyers saying that is only going to hurt. Is really only going to hurt, and I encourage them to say it more. Please don't vote in these runoffs. I think that's a great. I think the corruption is just so problematic and so broad that it necessitates you sitting at home and not coming out to vote.
Only Republicans.
Only Republicans. I think that's the
only
best
Republicans
for you all to do.
And from what I hear, there are roving bands of Antifa all over South Georgia. I would just be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful, because if you go out of your house to vote, right? If you go out of your house to vote, there might be bands of Black people there. Black people that live in Georgia, in your neighborhoods. Oh my God.
I'll be leading this isn't a hat, this is a skull. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Scully's hoodie,
if you will.
Oh my God. I'm going to address the second part of that question where she said about, basically, will Trump care? Will his ego care? Trump doesn't give a fuck what happens to the Senate. He's not going to be in power anymore.
No.
He doesn't give a fuck. And that's the problem with what the Republicans are doing. The fact they're continuing to engage him and to indulge his sociopathy here is only hurting them. This is not a winning strategy for Republicans. So they're debasing themselves. They are making a mockery of their oaths of office. And for what? To what end? For Donald Trump to do this on his way out. He doesn't give two shits about the Republican Party. It's all about him and his fragile ego. So they continue to kiss his ass, and all they're coming out with is, brown lipstick.
Oh, ow!
Ooh, that's
all right. Let's go for another tweet, since we are way in the fucking fecal weeds tonight.
We're way up the asses today. Okay, I understand that the acceptance of a pardon is the same as admission of guilt. If Donald Trump pardons members of his family, will the crime that they have committed that he is pardoning be revealed? Well, Rick, you want to answer that, and I'll follow up on it.
I'm not an attorney. Yeah. I'm not an attorney. I just hire
none of
a
us
lot
are
of
lawyers
them and
here.
I spend a fuck ton of money on them to achieve the ends that are required for the mission. But I will say this. My understanding is that a pardon requires that they specify what crime they are being pardoned for. Now, the only example of a preemptive pardon in our history is that I'm aware of is Gerald Ford saying that Nixon was pardoned for crimes he committed and may have committed. That's a pretty broad sweep, but I don't agree with that in the same way, because if he pardons Ivanka and Jared and Rudy and God knows whatever other randos are around him, there will need to be an explanation for it. You can't just say certain people get the magic blessing and they're above the law forever. Ha ha. So, look, the pardon power, we've talked about it on the show before. It's an extraordinarily powerful element of the president's executive powers, but it is also something that is not unlimited and unbounded in every way. I mean, look, Ivanka was deposed in D.C. this week on her role in the misappropriation of inaugural funds. So this is not, and in the Southern District of New York is about to have a field day with the Trump criminal enterprise. So it's not an unlimited ability to get out of jail free. It's just something that Trump has shown already a willingness to abuse by giving people like the degenerate fop Roger Stone a pardon and General Cuckoo Pants Mike Flynn a pardon, and walking through these various pardons and commutations he's done based on trying to preserve his political allies. So let's see if we've got another tweet in the stack.
Wait, Nate, you wanted to say something?
Oh, go.
I had a follow-up question on that point, because we've heard it, for the last 4 years or so, that the likelihood of another Trump running, either for president or for something else at some point is high. What happens to the political ambitions of individuals who are pardoned? Has there been a case like that? Like if Ivanka is
You know,
pardoned,
in some ways, I think in the Republican primary now, it almost
It
improves their
doesn't
chances
matter.
in a
Yeah.
Trump Republican Party. It's like almost a
Yeah.
badge of honor
Badge of
now.
valor.
It's like, yeah, I
Yep.
committed crimes. I'm going to run. Fuck you.
also there's a
And
rumor
Trump
that he
pardoned me.
there's a rumor that he pardons the guy from Tiger King. Just putting
He might.
You know what?
You know,
If he pardons the Tiger King guy, that hilarity will ensue.
not like he
Joe
did.
Exotic, free Joe Exotic, but and I'm
The-
sure
the-
Trump watched the Tiger King extensively. I have a feeling that was that joke in the beginning of the administration that they wished that there was a gorilla channel so Trump would just watch it all day long.
right, or Shark Week or whatever it was. Just two things to remember about the pardon thing, because obviously it's in the news and lots of people are talking about it, and we still have no idea what he's going to do. That doesn't apply to state crimes, and the state of New York has lots of things teed up on their docket against Trump and his family. So it doesn't matter if he can pardon for federal crimes, but he cannot pardon for state crimes. So just remember that. What Cy Vance is doing, what the Secretary of the Attorney General in New York, James, they are loaded and ready to go, and the federal pardons do not apply there. So, and also, I don't think, just to Rick's point, I don't think that you have to admit guilt or admit what the crime is for the pardon. There's a certain process, a bureaucratic process that was put in place by the Department of Justice with the Office of the Pardon Attorney, and there's lots of form to fill out, and it goes through all this thing. But all of that is just procedural that was put in later. It has nothing to do with the plenary power that's given to the president to pardon, which is why he can get away with, pardoning pretty much whoever he wants, unless there is like bribery or money taken or something like that, which there was something revealed this week that there was something amiss concerning that as well. And that's where the pardon power has an obstacle. All right, enough about pardon.
It's not too late to do another quick impeachment.
No, yeah. Good Lord. All right,
another tweet. Since everything Trump touches dies, I must ask, doesn't Trump touch himself? I believe he has subcontractors for that job.
Well, we've been saucy tonight, man. We have been
sassy
on this show.
It has gotten dirty.
Oh my God,
gotten dirty.
Well, I think that's a good way to end the show tonight. Thank you, Nate Nesbitt. Thank you for your work down there in Georgia. We'll be checking in with you. We'll be checking in with you periodically to see how things are going down there, and be sure to follow Nate on Twitter and Instagram, and you can see what he's doing down there in Georgia.
I do nothing on Instagram almost at all.
No, IG for you? Oh, then just Twitter.
I have an IG, but it's like begrudgingly, and I hate taking pictures. It's a weird thing about me. Actually, with then President Barack Obama, it's me at Morehouse. It's like 6 guys. We were his diplomats for our commencement. I'm the only man not smiling.
Nice.
Everybody else is ear to ear, and I'm just very unhappy that I have to take a picture. That's
not such a bad photo. Folks want to go see Nate with Barack Obama, go to Instagram. But if you want to see what he's doing down there in Georgia, follow him on Twitter. Nate Nesbitt, thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Nate. Talk to you tomorrow, brother.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Oh my goodness gracious. This is going to be a fun couple of weeks, folks. Fun couple of weeks. So speaking about Georgia, we've talked about what's happening there. We've been putting up on the Chiron that the voter registration deadline is December 7th there in Georgia. So if you haven't registered, make sure you're registered. So our call to action tonight is to make sure you mark your calendars for these dates in Georgia. December 7th, like I said, right there, Georgia voter registration deadline. The January 5th is the actual runoff. That's, only a couple weeks away, January 5th. So that means that you only have 4 more days to register. So if you're not registered, go and find out. If you're not registered, register. And you can get more information to find out about everything that's going on there at securevotegeorgia.com. That's securevotegA.com. You can find out your precinct, the Georgia Secretary of State there. It's on the My Voter page, and you can get all the information you need, where to go, your county, your precinct. It's all there at securevotega.com. Rick?
Well, folks, also want to remind you next Tuesday, we'll be back. Join our sister show, Vote for America with Jennifer Horn, which will be airing at 2:30 Eastern Time on Tuesday next week. They'll be covering more Georgia stories and more stories of the president's slow decline and fall from sanity. Great having you with us again tonight, folks, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
And yes, and we'll be back next Tuesday as well. We'll see you then.
As
Thanks, everybody.
always.
Welcome to a world free of mail-in voters, sucker veterans, and ingrate women. A world where all 4 seasons are late fall 2016. A world of winners. A world where all your fantasies come true. Welcome to the 4 Seasons. Total Landscaping. Let the outside world melt away as you transport into your wildest illusions.
Frankly, we did win this election.
At 4 Seasons Total Landscaping, we can fertilize your dreams into reality. Here you'll find greener pastures, the best pastures. We can help you build that garden wall you've always wanted.
Build that wall. Build that wall.
Drain the swamp. And of course, mow down the competition. Exult in the decadence of our quality podiums and scenic garage door.
Oh my goodness, all the networks! Wow!
Unwind to the calming tenor of our first in-class water feature. Soothe your weary feet on our premium concrete as you bask in the diesel scent of our powerful rider mowers and the crematorium next door. Premium packages are all-inclusive with day trips to nearby Fantasy Island, where vibrators start at $4.99 and the memories never end. Our deluxe package includes a deep body and soul cleanse, featuring the ultimate in self-indulgent decadence. A full pardon for past, present, and future crimes. Share it with the whole family. Make your reservation today. Operators are standing by.
4 Seasons Total Landscaping Tours is a division of Donco Family Home Entertainment and Petrochemicals.
Do you need to invalidate the results of an election? Then call me, Rudy Giuliani of Giuliani, and Known Associates, the election law experts. Here at Giuliani and Giuliani, we know all about elections, be they national, local, international, or pro forma. But don't take our word for it. Listen to these testimonials.
Rudy Giuliani argued the case today. It was absolutely brilliant.
This was one of the strangest court appearances I've ever had.
Dangerously malignant and cartoonishly incompetent.
At Giuliani and Giuliani, we know the number one problem with elections is voters.
You start doing ballots like this.
Voters often act against the interests of our clients, inflicting pain, reputational castration that may haunt you and your family business for decades to come. Don't let it happen to you. Just listen to a few of our satisfied clients.
Well, you have to ask that to Rudy, but Rudy, I don't even know. You know, Rudy has other clients other than me.
Hey, Giuliani! You're a piece of shit!
At Giuliani and Giuliani, we think beyond the letter of the law. We have no regard for our reputation when yours is on the line. We'll pull out all the stops to nullify the most votes possible as fast as possible. No vote margin is too large. Don't let our confiscatory rates dissuade you. We get the results you pay for. Call us at 646-374-8339 and get the right results certified before it's too late.
Giuliani, Giuliani, and known associates, election law specialists.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Just watching my algorithms get crushed. I guess I did something to piss off the Instagram gods, so hopefully you're seeing this stuff anyway. We'll do what we can. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.